Hello there. Just wanted to do a brief video on specifically looking at the driving test. And when people are asking the questions along the lines of, what is it about this driving test? You know, how are you supposed to pass this driving test? What's it all about? I just don't understand it. I just do not get this driving test. I can drive. I know I can drive. Why can't I pass this driving test? And it's a very, very valid question to be asking yourself, and it's quite a common one as well. And it's sometimes a good idea to actually take a step back and consider to yourself how it is that you've learned to drive, your attitude to driving. Sometimes that can be a very worthwhile few minutes to consider that. In this country, in the UK, you don't have to learn to drive with a driving instructor. The public can, if you like, teach themselves. So parents, grandparents, nothing wrong with that, and you can go to a driving test centre and use your own vehicle. A couple of stipulations about what you have to have in the vehicle, mirrors and stuff like that, but generally speaking, people can do that, and they do that. And so as such, there is the possibility that you can go through the process of learning to drive and get to the driving test stage, and you're wondering to yourself, why is it I'm not passing this test? I've now been doing this for however many weeks or months, and I've been doing so much driving. I've not once had an accident. I've not even come close to knocking anyone over, and yet I can't pass this test, and I just don't understand why that is. Well, very often it comes down to what you're used to, what you have been conditioned to witness, to experience as you've been in a vehicle. Not always, but very often it can be to do with that. So for example, I'll give you some practical examples of what I'm talking about. If you're used to seeing a driver, whoever that might be, and when they come to a roundabout on the approach and they're on the roundabout to take an exit, let's say second exit straight over, they go straight over the roundabout, not over the middle bit obviously, but they don't make an effort to follow the roundabout around. They're not, lane discipline isn't necessarily a big deal. And as we drive around every day, we will see that tons, won't we? Bit like signals, we don't see everybody doing good signals, do we? It's a fact. Exiting roundabouts, approaching roundabouts, junctions, emerging. Signals is something that gets dropped often, doesn't it? And if you are used to seeing that enough, you kind of get conditioned into that way of oh, that's it, that's all you've got to do. So when I'm going second exit straight over, basically on the approach, I just go straight over. And you do that on a test, you're very likely to fail the test. Another example, practical example, might be in what we call a meeting situation, which is basically when it starts getting a bit tight on the road. You might be in a residential area, 30 mile an hour, and there might be parked cars on one side or the other, or even both. And what that does is the hazard that it presents is that there can be a conflict for space on the road, and that needs forward planning. That needs a bit of sorting out between you and the vehicles oncoming, the drivers of the vehicles oncoming, as to who's giving way to who. Now, that takes a bit of planning and a bit of skill to develop that. And if you're used to seeing someone, again, whoever it might be, and when they come up to a meeting situation, they're coming through. I don't care that I'm coming through. I might be in a big van, and that's it. Yeah, you can wait for me. You can wait for me. I am coming through. And you see enough of that over weeks, months, years, and you begin to think to yourself, oh, right. That's all you've got to do. You just got to be assertive. Just be confident. Just go through, and then that works. Now, you do that on a driving test, not good. And so you see where I'm coming from. It's whether you call this your reference point or what you're used to seeing, conditioning or whatever. It doesn't really matter what it's called, but it's a suggestion that I'm offering as to why some people get quite frustrated, even angry, because they're losing money, aren't they? It's £62 on each test, and they're beginning to get a bit fed up with this now. Just about had enough of this now. I've now done 3 tests and I'm failing for what I think are really stupid things. I see these things every day when I'm going out on the roads with whoever it is, and I see, and that happens all the time, you know, and yet I can't do it on a driving test. It's not allowed. Yeah, it's the standard of driving. I'm going to do a related video to this one very shortly over in Stamford. It's the standard of driving that you are, your standard of driving that you're doing on a sort of regular day-to-day basis. It's too, putting it bluntly, it's too low. It's too low. We don't get tested again in the UK. Once you've passed your driving test, that's it. You don't get tested again. So this is it. This is the best you're going to drive when you're learning to drive and you do the driving test. That's the best you're going to be. Clearly, as you do more and more driving on the road, you're going to be picking up experience. True, but not all of those are going to be good experience, and as we know, with time, habits creep in, don't they? Habits creeping, which are not necessarily good habits, and also things get forgotten. Let's not forget that as well. I mean, things do get forgotten. Oh, blimey, yeah, that's right. You're on a crossroads. The priority, who's got priority in that situation? Oh yeah, now I remember that. Yeah, I'd forgotten that. And also, you know, we're assuming that it's a level playing field in terms of who's out there on the roads, and that's not true either. We can't make that assumption. There are all manner of drivers out there on the roads. Foreign drivers, people that have not necessarily taken a driving test in the UK, as well as people that shouldn't be driving on the roads. That's true, isn't it? We know it happens. There's people on the roads that have never passed a driving test and aren't insured, and so, you know, consequently, you can't afford to get into the habit of looking at what's going on around you and assuming that is all okay. That's a good standard of driving, because very often you only need to look at the premiums of insurance premiums, car insurance premiums. The evidence would suggest that's not the case, wouldn't it? So it's just something to bear in mind, to have a little thought about as to actually what you're actually aiming to achieve in terms of your standards of driving. Okay, any questions at all? Just ping them down below.